Hi, it's Pavel with a Visual Basic exercise where we'll be calculating a student's GPA. Now, the instructions for this exercise are that the user will enter student's grade, letter grade, A, B, C, D, or F, and credit hours for each course. After that, the user will record this course by clicking a button, and the screen will clear, and the user will be able to enter another course. Once all the courses for a student have been entered, the user will click Calculate GPA button, and the final GPA for the overall GPA will be displayed. Now the GPA is calculated. I found this website. If you get an A, you get 4 grade points. If you get a B, you get 3 points. C, 2 points. D, 1 point, and F is 0 points. Now we won't have any A minus or B plus, just A, B, C, D, or F. Now, to calculate grade points, you calculate the grade, which is A, which is 4, multiplied by the credit hours. So 3 times 4 equals 12. In this case, 1 times B, which is 3, 1 times 3 equals 3. This one is 3 credit hours times C, which is 2 points, so 3 times 2 is 6, and F is 0, so 3 times 0 is 0. Now the final GPA is calculated by the total grade points, in other words, 12 plus 3 plus 6, which is 21, divided by the total credit hours attempted, which in this case would be 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1, which is 10. So 21 divided by 10, and that's 2.1 GPA. All right, so I already have the form, just the form. I don't have any code. It doesn't do anything right now. All it does is it has a combo box with the drop-down menu, drop-down list, and you have A, B, C, D, or F grades that the user will select from. Then after the grade is selected and the credit hours entered, the user will click record this course. The screen will clear. Enter another course, record it, and so forth until all of them are entered, and then click the calculate GPA button, and the final GPA will be displayed in this read-only text box. Okay, so we will be utilizing some functions, and since this is a cumulative calculation, with every click we record some values, we will need some form level variables that are accessible from all the functions within the form class. All right, so let's do that, I guess. Well, first let's do the floating or the cumulative variables. So it's gonna be public. I don't know. I'll just call this one a floating. Well, we need the points, so floating points as it's gonna be double, I believe, and floating hours. These are the credit hours. That's double. Actually, that can be integer because it's only 1, 2, 3, or 4. As you can see here, the credit hours are up to 4, I believe. Well, I'll take it up to 4. I don't know if you can. Can you get more than 4 credit hours for a class? I only had 4 at the maximum, so I'll take 4, and 1 was the least. So we have now this is the record button click. But before we do that, actually, I'm going to do the function, like the assignment calls for a function procedure that should calculate the quality points for a course. So I'm going to do a function called public function. I'll call it calculate points. points like that. And in order for it to do it, we will need to pass some arguments, and those are the values from our combo box and our text box. So in other words, we'll need to pass the grade and credit hours. So the grade is a string because it's A, B, C, D, or F. So grade as string, and hours, so it's credit hours as integer. And from these two, we can calculate the quality points. All right, so I will be using a variable called quality points, which is going to be a double, and it's going. Wow, I'm thinking of a beer. Pints, pins, points, like that. And that's actually what we will return as well. So return quality. If I learn to spell it, quality points. Okay, so but how do we calculate them? It's a simple select case method. Select, structure. So select case. We will, based on the grade, the string grade A, B, C, or D. If the case is A, if the grade is A, then our quality points equals the grade. Not the grade. If it's A, it's 4 times the credit hours. All right. Remember, for A you get 4 points. For B you get 3 points, and so forth. So case B, it's going to be the same thing. Quality points equals 3 times credit hours. Case C, this is going to be 2. If you got a C, you got only 2 times credit hours. Case D, that's going to be, of course, 1. And finally, case else, quality points equals 0, because anything for F, if you fail, you get 0. So again, we pass grade, which is A, B, C, D, or F, and our credit hours, which in our case will be 1, 2, 3, or 4, which we will take care of later. At the moment, it could be anything, but I'll make sure it's only 1, 2, 3, or 4. We will do the select case, and again, if it's A, then we will return the multiplication of 4 times whatever the credit hours were. If it's B, 3 times the credit hours, and so forth, and we will return that from this function. Okay, so this is how you calculate the quality points. Now, how do we record this information when we click the record button? Before we record anything, we need to actually make sure that these values are entered. Otherwise, we'll get an error when we try to perform a calculation. So if combo box grades, which is the A, B, C, or D, or F drop-down menu, that selected index is less than 0. In other words, if nothing is selected, if nothing is selected, the index selected index is -1. So I just do less than 0. Then a message box. Please select a grade. All right, and I won't go any further until this is done. Like I said, user has to enter the values in order for us to do any meaningful calculations. Now, else if the credit hours are not entered, if text box hours that text is empty. Then we will display another message box, which is say, please enter credit hours. Else, if this is if the grade is entered, if the hours are entered, we can proceed. Now there's other input validations that you could be making. Make sure that this is actually an integer, another string or some decimal points. But in our case, this is good enough. As long as something is entered, we can try to do some calculations. So how are we gonna do that? Well, we will have to do the calculate points first. So we will call the function. I will get a variable here called quality points, and it's double, and that will equal quality points. Well, you know what? Yeah, we can do that. We'll be holding the result of our calculate points function, and we will pass the arguments. So we will pass the grade, which we don't have yet, over here. We can instead of passing just the text box values, I will assign it. So it's going to be credit hours as integer, and grade as string, which is the A, B, C, D, or F. So now I can pass the grade, and I can pass the credit hours. Now I name these obviously the same all over the place. You know that the lifetime of a variable is only within its functions, or it's a limited scope. Like if it's it could be only, if I declare it here, it would be only within the if statement. So these are not the same. I could name them something different, but I think it's more descriptive if they are named the same, as long as you remember the scope of the variable. Now, before we pass them, we need to assign some values to them. So what is our grade? Well, our grade equals the combo box grades dot selected item. And what's our credit hours? Well, our credit hours equals, which is going to be an integer, so we need to convert it to integer. Whatever the user enters into our text box hours, we will assign to credit hours. But again, we only do this if this is true, actually if this is false, and if this is false. In other words, if something is selected here and if something is entered into the text box. Okay, so after this, we need to add this result to our floating points and allow the user to enter another course. So our floating points plus equals quality points, and we need to also do the hours as well. So floating hours plus equals the current hours, the current credit hours, sorry, credit hours. Credit hours. All right, so again, we call the function, we pass the grade and credit hours for one course at a time. We calculate the quality points, return that value, and assign it to our variable, and then add that value to our floating points, and we add the hours, the credit hours, to our floating hours variable, which is the form level variable over here. So now, like I said before, after each time you enter the values, you should clear the form to allow for another course to be entered. So I will just do a public sub clear form. Nothing has to be passed into this sub, and it's going to be grades that selected index. Where is it? Selected index equals -1. In other words, it makes nothing selected. We will display a default text, which is select grade, and we will also clear the text box for hours. Text equals. If you remember, let me show you how it works. You click on it. It says select grade by default. Drop down menu. You click select grade. Now it's C, for example, or B, or whatever. So if I go to a design view, I already pre-populated by default when the form starts. The drop-down list already has A, B, C, D, or F in it. All right, and it has the text, as you can see, select grade, which is over here in the properties. That's when the form starts for the first time. But once you reset it, you want to display the same way as if it was for the first time. All right, so we have the clear form. So after we do all this over here, after we record the course, we will call the clear form sub to clear the form. All right, so that's really all how to do the capturing each values and how to assign them. Now we can calculate the final GPA. And as you can tell, the GPA again is the total grade points divided by total credit hours. So I will do a GPA variable called GPA. It's going to be a double, and our GPA equals the floating points divided by the floating hours. So, and we will simply display it. Display text GPA dot text equals, and let's format it as a number to 2 decimal points. Okay, this should be all. Let's see if it runs, if you get any errors or any logic problems. All right, select grade. Let's say I'm going to try to record this course without adding any values at all. I get a please select grade pop up. Okay, so I select grade, but I don't enter any credit hours. Try to record it. Please enter credit hours. Okay, so this one works. So let's say I have 4 hours. So C and 4 hours. I'll record this course. See it clear the form by default again. If I try to record it again, I can't because I didn't enter any values. So now I do A, and let's say 3 credit hours. I record this course, and now let's calculate the GPA. It's 286. So my first was C with 4 hours. So that's 3 points for C, 2 points for C times 3 hours, right? 4 hours, I'm sorry. So that's 8, obviously. And the other one was A, which is 4 points times 3 hours, which is 12. So obviously it's a plus 12, so that's 20. Divided by how many hours total? 4 plus 3, 7. So we got 2.857 and we got 2.856, which is, yeah, because we formatted it as with 2 decimal points, so we rounded 857 to 86, obviously. All right, so it seems to be working. We can of course test it more with more values. I don't want to waste your time, but this is really all. Now let's recap quickly. We have public form variables, one for holding a floating points, one for holding the floating hours, because those are the two values that we need in the final GPA calculations. We have the functions clear form. It simply clears the form, ready, for another entry. And we have the calculate points, which takes the argument of the grade, which is A, B, C, D, or F, and the argument of credit hours, which is 1, 2, 3, or 4. Actually, one of those things I forgot to do that. So I can enter any number of credit hours I want at the moment. So I'll do that after I explain this thing quickly. So we calculate the quality points, return it, and then we will assign that or add it to our floating points, and we will also add our credit hours to our floating hours. After all these courses are entered, we will calculate the GPA simply by floating points divided by floating hours and display it the formatted output in our text. Now, actually, now I realize there's one more thing. Like, if I try to calculate GPA now, see, I get an error because I didn't enter any courses. What I need to do here, the calculation can be performed only if we actually beforehand enter some kind of at least one course. So if floating hours is greater than 0, in other words, if this is true, then we know that at least one course was entered. We could also do if floating points is greater than 0, but be careful because if you got F, you still get you get 0 points. So that wouldn't be true. But with floating hours, even if you get an F, each class has at least 1 credit hour. So if floating hours is greater than 0, then we can perform the calculation and display the result like this. Else, message box, no courses were entered yet. And we will exit the sub. Alright, so let's test that quickly again. Let's try to calculate GPA. No courses were entered yet. Okay, so, and like I said, I want the credit hours to be 1, 2, 3, or 4 only. I don't know if you, like I said, I don't know if you go to a school that has more than 4 credit hours. If you do, then just leave it as it is. I'm gonna limit it to 4 hours. So if over here, if text hours is, I'm gonna change this to else if, and I'll convert it to integer if the hours that text is less than 1, or the text hours dot text, in other words, if the value entered is greater than 4, then please enter valid credit hours. So if I try to enter 5, I get, let's say, A or B, whatever, and I'll try to enter 5 credit hours. It should tell me to please enter valid credit hours, and it does. But now it seems to be crashing. No. But you know what? What we need to do, we need to exit sub here. Actually, we don't, because we have everything in the block. We don't even need this exit sub, because it's either this or this or this. There's no other options, so we don't need any of the exit sub. Okay, so again, let's demonstrate one more time quickly. Let's say I get A. I forget to, or I do 0 credit hours, which is invalid. Please enter valid credit hours. So I'll enter 2 credit hours for this course. I get a B, 3 credit hours for this course. And I get a C, and I get 4 credit hours for this course. And total is 278. So let's quickly calculate that. We get A, which is 4 points, times, we got 2 hours for that. We got B, which is 3 points, times 3 hours, so that's plus 9. And we got C, which is 2 points, but 4 hours, so that's 8. 25 divided by how many hours it was? It was 4 plus 3, 7 plus 2 is 9. 2.7777, so it's 2.78, as you can see. So that's correct as well. All right, so this is all. It wasn't too difficult, I hope. Hope it helped you. Maybe you learned something. Don't forget to subscribe if you didn't yet. You can even like the video. I wouldn't mind that. And I'll see you next time. Take care.